I've given 4 topics on, so I'm maybe I can talk a little bit about everyone. Maybe they're all linked anyway. Do we do Madhava, or do we just carry on with the talk?
Maharaj, as you wish.
We can just chant for 2 or 3 minutes. It'll give me a little bit of a
Yes, Maharaj.
inspiration. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is actually, it's quoted in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, but this is a verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This was written by Srila Rupa Goswami on the order of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya gave the Goswamis instructions to scrutinizely study the different Shastras and extract the essence from those Shastras for the benefit of ourselves. And so that's not a small task. It says the Vedas, they are so voluminous in their original form that it's impossible to actually go through them all. There's only a fraction of the Vedas left, and it would take many lifetimes to go through that. So, because why? The Vedas are dealing with every aspect of material life and spiritual life. And so, everything that happens in this world, it's actually connected to the Vedas. Everything has its proper utility, everything has its origin, because everything's coming from Krishna. And, the Vedas are also coming from the breathing of the Supreme Lord. So they're connected. And what, modern scientists and philosophers think is something new, it's just another aspect of the Vedas, but it's probably presented in a way, some small part. But, pūrṇam, adaḥ, pūrṇam, idam, pūrṇāt, pūrṇam, udacyate, pūrṇasya, pūrṇam, ādāya, pūrṇam, evāvaśiṣyate. Everything, the Lord is complete. He's complete. He's what they call the complete whole. So we can have a whole, but it's not complete. He's a complete whole. So what's the complete whole consist of? It consists of his personal form, which is complete in itself. He doesn't need anything else. It consists of all his energies, of which we are one, and it consists of his material energy as well, and his spiritual energy. And it says that this is a complete personality of Godhead. It's impossible for us to really understand this concept that there's nothing else but Krishna and his energies. We tend to think of a person and there's something outside that person. Is that right? That person exists in some in some situation. But that means that that situation is outside Krishna. That situation is Krishna. Just like Mother Yashoda, she was just after one pastime of killing, I think it was the pūrṇā demon, was it? And some of Krishna's friends complained that Krishna's been eating dirt, and Mother Yashoda was beside herself with anxiety. So she said, "Have you been eating dirt?" He says, "No, Mother, I haven't." She says, they say you've been eating dirt. Even Balaram says you're eating dirt. And Krishna said, they're actually ganging up against me. He said, they're trying to blame me. They've got something against me. So they're saying that I'm eating dirt, but I'm not eating dirt. Open your mouth. And she looked in his mouth and she saw the whole universe. And in the middle of that universe was herself looking in Krishna's mouth. So, and she couldn't understand. She was just completely bewildered. And for a brief moment, she thought, who is my son? And then she started to, and then Krishna put his yoga maya potency over Mother Yashoda again, and she forgot. So that's Krishna. He's inside everything and he's outside everything. one who sees me everywhere, in every place, in every circumstances, is most intimately connected with me in yoga. He's not bewildered in any situation. Pūrṇam adaḥ, pūrṇam idam. That even the emanations which come from Krishna, they're complete. Is that right? Is anything incomplete in this world? If we think about it, everything's perfect. This human form of life is actually perfect form. Any answers? Complaining? We're good at that, aren't we? Even Krishna is a perfect complainer. It's perfect for self-realization, anything else. And this material universe is complete. What's the universe complete for? It's perfect for fulfilling the desires of the living entity, like ourselves. I was looking on the computer, and I don't have a picture of Krishna on the computer or the holy idaṁ. Some devotees have that. And, I'm not so spiritual. So I had one of these programs where it changes the picture every few days. Has anybody else got that? Okay, you're all very elevated souls. But, the last picture was a nebula. Does anybody know what a nebula is? It's not one of those things you stick in your mouth to give you some... That's a similar name, isn't it? Is it also called a nebula? So this nebula is outer space, and it showed you all the stars. And there's thousands of these nebulas, and in each nebula, you can't even count how many stars there is. It's so vast. And each one of those stars is actually desire and a particular aspiration. And so Krishna's created all that, and it's completely perfect to fulfill all their desires, or to try. But it's completely perfect for, rectifying or purifying. This is the material world. Any other completenesses? Can we think of any more? Anyway, I think we get the message that nothing is actually incomplete, but we are incomplete. We're incomplete because everything's connected to Krishna, but the illusion is that we don't understand that we're part and parcel of Krishna. And so therefore we're incomplete due to incomplete activity on a platform separately from Krishna. I've got a message here from Laura Henley to everyone. And Laura Henry. What's it say? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. It's just our perception of the world that makes us believe it is not perfect. But once we truly see the Lord everywhere and in everything, then everything is perfect and complete. 10 out of 10. Great. So that's the situation. When it's our consciousness which separates us, that's all. We're not physically separated. It's not like, we go back to Glasgow, Vrindavan, and, we have to catch so many different vehicles to get there. But no, we immediately, when the consciousness is actually in Vrindavan consciousness, then that's Vrindavan. When Lord Chaitanya was going to Vrindavan, he wanted to go there to see the holy idaṁ. And his devotee said, why do you want to go to Vrindavan? Stay with us, wherever you are, that's Vrindavan. So this is the fact, wherever the pure devotee is practicing devotional service. I'm not in Vaikuntha, Krishna says. I'm not in the holy idaṁ. Well, he says not in the holy idaṁ. I'm not here, I'm not there. Where is he? Where is Krishna?
In the heart of devotees.
He's in the heart of the devotees. is wherever the devotee is glorifying him, Krishna is there. And then when we actually glorify Krishna, then everything becomes complete. We remember the Supreme Lord, and then we can connect everything. So that's the goal, what we're searching for. This is the practice of Bhakti Yoga. And that was one of the first subjects, is how to connect with the Supreme Lord. And it was talking about the importance of disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam raja shayovidu sakalene yahatanoga yoganasta parantapa. So Krishna explaining this in the 4th chapter about the process of disciplic succession. So everything is complete, even the lifeline to perfection is there. And Krishna ensures that that lifeline is kept intact, going from the representative of the Supreme Lord through the Sun God to the father of mankind, Manu, and to Ikshvaku in the beginning of the Raghu dynasty of Lord Ramachandra. The knowledge is coming down in disciplic succession. And is it the same as what it was given to Ikshvaku? Is it exactly the same? This is an interesting question. You've got to put your thinking caps on now. Everybody's thinking, what's he talking about? Of course it's the same. Otherwise it wouldn't be disciplic succession. So you're right, it's the same. Well, what's different? You've got to put your blue hand up. It's got to be a blue hand. I'm not taking any direct hand. Because, we have to turn a page. There's maybe somebody on the other page. Why I don't see. Oh, right. Mary Smith, blue hand. You've got to put your mic on as well.
We can't hear you, Mary Mataji.
Can you hear me? You can hear, but you can't. Anyway, you have to write your answer in the chat. We'll read it in a little while. Now. That's right. Is the disciplic succession the same? And we said yes. What different? Okay. Nobody's answering. There's no hands going up. So the presentation. Present. And just robotically pass the knowledge on as we received it without changing the presentation. The essence is different, just like Srila Prabhupada's books. He once said that his godbrothers got no intelligence. They're still using the books of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That was his spiritual master. So that seems like a pretty harsh statement to say about his spiritual master, but Prabhupada was actually in the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He understood his mood. He understood Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted him to preach to Westerners. So, if we read the books of practice and Saraswati and try and use them in the West, people find it very difficult to assimilate. So, I was on hermeneutics. Has anybody heard of hermeneutics? Before I hermeneutics is a process
Prabhu, I cannot hear anything.
Yeah, Maharaj joining again. I think there is some issue with that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Maharaj, we can hear now.
Hermeneutics is a process of acquiring knowledge.
By 3 ways we can acquire knowledge.
It's a very, we read Prabhupada's books. How many of us actually sometimes find contradictions sometimes, or things that don't seem correct, or are not appropriate for, or don't seem appropriate for our situation or the civilization we're living in?
Mm-hmm.
Does that ring a bell, everybody?
Yeah.
Sam Simpson says yes. Can you give us any
Mm-hmm.
examples?
Well, there's a part in the Bhagavad Gita where he talks about women. What's the verse? Oh, what is the verse? It's like, I can't remember the verse. It talks, I'm trying to work out even the gist of it. What is it? Like, it talks about how women are like, they'll be degraded or something. Can't remember what it is. I'm really sorry.
That's about women and what?
I can't remember the verse. I can't remember it at all. It's something about no, I can't remember it. It's gone. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it does talk about women need protection in the first chapter.
No, it's not that.
Really, Arjuna.
It's let me see.
Anyway,
No, I haven't. No, I'm really sorry, but
Okay,
yeah,
no.
it's something about
Anyway.
something will be lost if this happens. This will be lost, and then no, I can't remember it at all.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, you can find that sometime and have a look over it. And
Yeah.
refresh your memory. Anybody else got any?
I just have a one doubt. I mean, like, and it is today's thought only, and it just came first time in my mind that we are Krishna conscious. We are actually praying for Krishna, or we are praying. I'm actually do Ram things. But if we see, there are multiple religions where people are following whatever they are born with those religion, and they are actually doing as per karmas. Or if we talk about Bhagavad Gita, they must be following everything. They must be doing the good things. They must be I mean, like, doing as part of their day-to-day life, they must be doing very good. Only they are not Krishna conscious. They must be praying to the religion where they born. So what about those people? I mean, like, they
Okay.
have to come back to the again on this earth until they become a Krishna conscious.
Well, let me just try and understand what you're saying that some people they're not actually Krishna conscious. They may be practicing some parts of Bhagavad Gita. What do they have to do? Do they have to come back? So that's not my real question, but I understand your point, and I can answer it with an example that I've got. I hope I can answer it anyway. One particular thing is that in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna tells Arjuna that he should do his duty and fight.
Yeah.
He said otherwise, he'll lose his reputation as a fighter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And what else did he say? He said that people will scorn your ability. Dishonor is worse than death for a Kshatriya. He gives all these examples. In other words, he's talking about, you'll be hurt by what they say about you, right?
Yeah.
Your duty is to fight. You're a fighter, you're a Kshatriya. So then, in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he said, a devotee is not concerned with dishonor or honor or fame or infamy. He just serves Krishna. So, when somebody hears that, they're thinking, what does he mean? In one chapter, he's saying that he's concerned about what will people think about, what will people think about you. And then later in Bhagavad Gita, he's saying the devotee shouldn't be concerned about that. So, this is a simple example. So there are different levels of Shastra. In the beginning, he's talking to Arjuna, who's under the modes of nature, apparently, by Krishna's intervention. He's put him under the modes of nature, so he acts like a conditioned soul. So he's speaking to us as, as if we're actually in the, what do they call it, the Varna duty. And Arjuna's duty is to fight.
Yes.
He's not necessarily a devotee at that point, so everybody should follow a particular duty. And that will elevate them to a higher standard of life. He's saying that, for a Kshatriya, it's your duty to fight and not be a coward.
Yeah.
If you do, all the Kshatriyas and everybody will so if a person who's on the platform of just being a mundane Kshatriya, they'll be actually very much disturbed by that. So he's talking to Arjuna on that platform. But later on in Bhagavad Gita, when he preaches to Arjuna, when it comes to the middle section, he's starting to talk about devotional service. And now he's talking about the mentality of a devotee. Now Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, to his instructions. He's practicing devotional service. So he said, on this platform, we'll do our duty as a Kshatriya if I ask you to, if it's my instruction. But you're not actually affected by what people think about you. You work for me without any attachment, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So there are different shastras for different situations, for different levels of politics, is actually dealing with these things, how to actually read Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and understand it properly and not become confused by it.
Okay.
So to do that, we need to actually associate with those who actually are more experienced in understanding Bhagavad Gita. And then we can actually understand it in total eventually. We can understand it properly, at least, the particular section we're dealing with. Otherwise, what happens is that people become confused. So yeah, so Shastra is although the Siddhanta, the conclusion of Shastra, what's the conclusion of Shastra? And ultimately, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
And I'm his servant. And my duty is to serve Krishna. That's the ultimate Siddhanta. But people are not ready for accepting that, a lot of people. So they have to understand different levels to bring them to that point. So this is called, so to understand where somebody's at, what they need, is the duty of a person, of a preacher. It's no good preaching on a higher level than somebody's at. So this is what I was saying about that, parampara, it's the same message, but it's presented according to the audience and according to the time, place, and circumstance. And so when we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and associated books, many times we'll come across these different scenarios, and they seem to be confusing. If we stick to Prabhupada's purports and take the ultimate issue that we're devotees and we're trying to bring personality of Godhead, then we won't become confused. But for the purpose of understanding these Shastras, in order to give it to others, we have to understand these different levels and what Bhagavad Gita is saying. Just like you asked me a question, so we have to be able to do that. So this brings on to the next point that Balishwar Prabhu gave me to talk about, is reading Srila Prabhupada's books. This is disciplic succession. If we read the Acharya's books, we won't be able to really make much of them. They're written in a different time for a different type of person. I'll give you an example, shall I? Is that today we did the last part of this hermeneutics course, and we were actually putting all the things that we'd learned together in groups. There was a group of 3, and they grouped me with 2 devotees. One was from Sri Lanka and one was from India. And we were doing a particular, apparent, what they call it, a paradox. A paradox means it looks to be different, but it's not. And so the scenario is we were preaching to a young student who'd not been practicing Krishna consciousness at all. They were brand new. It was just like, you meet people on the street and they take an interest and you start talking to them. And so one of them started putting their viewpoint of how they would deal with it. And it was along the same lines as mine, but different. That's the point. It's even on this planet, even there's different countries, there's different social situations. What's they call the word? There's different cultures. And the culture in India is that, we accept the Vedas, we accept the sadhu, we'll listen to him, and we'll treat it as being correct. We may not follow it, but at least we're respectful enough to listen and accept it. So they almost more or less preaching directly to the student. This is the Vedas. This is what you should accept. This is what, like this. And would that work in Scotland? Imagine yourself in the middle of Glasgow and somebody starts to take an interest in the books and you start laying the law down. This is from the Vedas. But he wouldn't even know what you're talking about. And so I think we get the message that we have to learn the art of presenting things in a suitable way. So the parampara is the same. The message is the same, but the delivery is completely different. Let's have a look at what was next on the list. So we've got the importance of disciplic succession. So what's the difference between the Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya and any other Sampradaya? Can we go back to Godhead by following another Sampradaya? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Yes, there's back to John Thompson. Peru. You've got to put your mic on, though. You've got to unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Peru.
Well, the obvious answer to that for me was, of course, that we know that Prabhupada is in our Sampradaya. That's obvious. And Lord Chaitanya is in our Sampradaya, and he's Krishna himself. So therefore, it's practically, as you would understand, infallible then. Although the other Sampradayas maybe have a lot of knowledge, and you're lucky if you come to this Sampradaya first, I might add. And if you don't get exposed to other Sampradayas, because we're considered like a fast lane Sampradaya, if you follow your Sampradaya, the fast lane Sampradaya. And just simply, Srila Prabhupada is coming in that long line of the Parampara, coming right down from Lord Chaitanya. That's probably preeminent, you know, it's a hard one to beat. That's the way I would say answer that. It's a hard
Well,
one
now
to beat.
it's the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya fast lane Sampradaya.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's suitable for this particular. Prabhupada has presented actually this Sampradaya presents the highest understanding of devotional service, the mood of Madhurya Ras with Krishna. You know, the other Sampradayas, you know, each Sampradaya has its origin. Ours is Brahma, then there's Kumaras, from the Kumaras, they're sons of Brahma. There's Lakshmi Sampradaya, and there's a Shiva Sampradaya and Rudra Sampradaya. And within that Sampradaya, for this, you know, they go back thousands upon thousands of years, millions of years sometimes. But for this particular age, they call it the modern age, they have an acharya. You've probably heard of Nimbaka for the Kumara Sampradaya, and the Madhavacharya for the Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, Ramanuja for the Sri Sampradaya, the Lakshmi Sampradaya, and then Vishnu Swami for the Rudra Sampradaya. So they appeared recently, and they're like the preachers who made the philosophy suitable for time, place, and circumstance. And each of these acharyas actually saw Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya arranged that they all saw him, and he told them to leave it, not actually expand any more on their own sampradaya about the more, what can you say, a more intimate understanding of the relationship with Krishna. And he said, I'll preach this particular philosophy of Achinchya Veda Veda Tattva. And so, you know, we can actually, these sampradayas are actually still in vogue, and they're still potent, but the message is difficult to follow. And we haven't got the ultimate conclusion of, you know, which Lord Chaitanya gave in his mood. His mood was the mood of the Srimati Radharani, the Gopis. So that expands onto something else. Does that make sense to everybody? Is it confusing? It's confusing. It's not confusing.
It's not.
Anyway, bear with it. Stay with it. You'll be all right. And then we have the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. Within that, we've got the Gaudiya Mat and the different branches of Gaudiya Mat. And then we've got the ISKCON. So what's the difference between Gaudiya Mat and ISKCON? You know, can we join the Gaudiya Mat and go back to Godhead? They're teaching the same as ISKCON, aren't they? Same spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. What's the difference? Yeah, John, can you?
Once again, Maharaj, I can only say that it's the empowerment of Prabhupada standing out as the preeminent acharya, and nobody has given the amount of knowledge like what Prabhupada gave in his books. I don't know, some of the other sampradayas and their acharyas have given knowledge similar, but they've never gave it in the way Prabhupada gave it. He's a special case. Srila Prabhupada is the linchpin for us, and that we have the most empowerment through him. Although they may go back to Godhead, they maybe not give the austerities that the Krishna consciousness movement gives. We are more maybe strict to chant the rounds. We're a prescribed amount of rounds, follow the fasting days. I'm not saying that we all do it to the finest degree, but because of Prabhupada, we have that special empowerment, I would say. He makes a difference. Srila Prabhupada makes a difference in all that. Is that correct, Maharaj?
This is a good point, because there's one book which the GBC brought out about 4 or 5 years ago. It talks about Srila Prabhupada's position, and all the information's in there that any one of the God brothers of Srila Prabhupada could have done the same as him. But as we all probably have read the history, that they created factions. You know, they started to argue and try to create one acharya, and there was 2 particular factions which were prominent, and they directly didn't follow the instruction of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which was to work together until Prabhupada left this world. He was trying to actually facilitate that they could actually help to preach together, but they didn't reciprocate with him. So it wasn't that Prabhupada separated himself. But, you know, in order to actually stop the factions from coming into ISKCON, he created a separate movement. And he created, you know, so in one respect, the God brothers don't have any authority to take his position as the founder acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So it's like a branch of, or it's the main branch of the Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. The other branches are not so prominent anymore because they didn't follow Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instructions. And all the arguments, there's one little book out called the Prabhupada's Position, Acharya, founder Acharya. And so that if we read through that book carefully, we'll have a good understanding of why Srila Prabhupada was so careful to keep us separate from the Gaudiya Mat. In one respect, he wanted to work with them, but when he saw that they weren't interested in cooperating, then he actually separated himself. So, you know, and the mood is, for your understanding, is that everyone's a Vaishnava, whatever Sampradaya, if they follow him properly. So the respect is there, the proper respect is given, but from a distance. We don't necessarily invite them to preach within the movement. We keep that separate, because then it's going to cause, you know, confusion, especially for new devotees. So anyway, I just went in a little bit into the ISKCON branch of Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, because it was one of the questions was parampara. So our parampara is to follow Srila Prabhupada. You know, by respect, Prabhupada books have brought us to Krishna consciousness. So therefore, our obligation is to Prabhupada. If we're a gentleman or a gentlewoman, we'll be very much chaste towards serving Srila Prabhupada. And in that way, we keep the legacy that Srila Prabhupada's given us. So it's very important that we understand that, and we keep things simple. So, is there any questions on that anyway? Maybe there are a few questions about the details.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just had a
Yeah.
question regarding this discussion that we're just having. So when we're talking about ISKCON, of course, we're talking about Krishna consciousness, where Srila Prabhupada was more like an instrument that Krishna sort of gave us so that we can be closer to Krishna. So should our allegiance be to Srila Prabhupada or to Supreme God, Krishna? If you know what I mean, like do we put Srila Prabhupada on the same pedestal as Krishna?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. It's actually that, acharya mam vigyaniyam navaman manyasakarishit namartya varyasuyeta sarvadeva mayagaru. So this is a nice verse from Bhagavatam, and it explains that we should see the acharya like Srila Prabhupada as non-different from Krishna. But, he's not Krishna. We pay the respects to a policeman who comes to the door as much as we respect the government, because he's a representative of the government. But he's not the Prime Minister. You understand? So, Srila Prabhupada is a pure representative of Krishna, so he delivers the message of Krishna, which is non-different. So we treat him as a direct representative of Krishna, and we treat him with the same worship, awe, and reverence. That this is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like in India, when the British were there, they used to have viceroys. Roy means king, Rai, R-A-Y-A. So viceroy would be a representative of the king, but he would be treated as the same, with the same due respect. So that's one way of looking at it. That he's treated with the same respect, but we understand that he's not Krishna. He's a representative of Krishna.
Right.
And
so in the end, we're just sort of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And that's our main goal, is to reach Krishna, be it any means.
No, our main goal is to serve. Our main goal is to serve the servant of Krishna. It's just like if you went to the viceroy and asked to serve him, you wouldn't get near him. You'd have to actually serve one of his representatives or speak to one of his representatives. And then if they saw you were qualified, then they'd let you speak to him. So we can speak directly to Krishna by chanting his holy name, by reading about him, by praying to him. But we're getting the information of how to do that through his representative. So we're always going through a representative, and we're always honoring the representative. And that's the, it's the official way to do it, but it's also the respectful way to do it. That we, the person who's giving us all the time and energy to teach us Krishna consciousness, then we should be very much respectful and have a service attitude towards that person. And then it's through that person that we please Krishna. That person is actually offering our service to Krishna. We have to see that, where are we coming from? What do we know about Krishna? What experience have we got of Krishna? What do we know about devotional service and its practice? We know practically nothing. Do we know the mood? We don't know anything. And all this is coming from his representative. So that person is very dear to Krishna because he's delivering that message for everybody's benefit. And so Krishna is pleased when we respect his representative. And then that representative is pleased with our attitude. He offers the service that we want to give and teaches us how to serve. It's through him that Krishna is accepting the service. because we don't know how to serve directly. Is that clear?
Yeah, that makes sense, Prabhu.
Okay. Anything else about disciplic succession? Go on fast. Mukesh Prabhu, yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, like you were saying, like if we read Bhagavad Gita and we might get confused. So, is it we should not start reading Bhagavad Gita alone until we get a learned person or experienced people, like experienced person who can make us understand?
Yeah, we can read this alone, but we, you know, in the beginning, it may inspire us. We may get some inkling about devotional service. There's nothing wrong with reading it, but when we become serious, then we need, you know, to read it in the association of devotees. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido, bhajanti vikana, vasayana kata, sajoshana avavarga, vartmani, shradaratir bhakti, anukramishanti. And it's saying satam, in the association of pure devotees, these topics about the Supreme Personality of Godhead become very satisfying to the heart and pleasing to the ear. And we actually carry on reading and studying in that association. It says that we advance very quickly in devotional service. And then actually we can serve Krishna properly. Then real devotional service begins. We're actually performing devotional service, but our consciousness is purified. We're performing most of the time. We don't really actually focus on trying to please Krishna, and we're conscious of Krishna. We are doing a service. We have some inclination, but we're serving through the direction of our authority. But as we actually hear and chant in the association of devotees, the philosophy will become clearer and clearer and clearer. And our, you know, as the heart becomes purified, then our natural inclination to serve Krishna will be reawakened. And then full faith will develop. Shraddha Shabdi Vishwas Kahai Sujitanischai. Krishna Bhakta Sarva Kama Kama Kritahai. It means real faith is that we come to the point when we actually are convinced that I don't need to do anything else in this world except serve Krishna. If I learn how to serve Krishna, then everything will provide. And that's a fact. It's just our misunderstanding and our conditioning, which makes us think that we're actually having to provide everything for ourselves. Everything's coming from Krishna. He's providing for the sparrows. I was living outside the manor. It was a halfway house. I was too contaminated to move in, you know. You know, with this COVID-19, no to do. I had to go through some purification for a few days. But, you know, I had a nice room and I was watching, and it was like, you know, a back garden. And in this back garden, I saw all kinds of animals just passing by in front of my very eyes. There were squirrels, there was like half a dozen different types of birds. You know, I'd seen them in the encyclopedia, but I'd never seen them close up. But I was like 6 or 7 foot away from birds, and there was the jay. Has anybody seen a jay? There was a robin, there was a starling, a blue tit, a yellow tit. I saw the lot. And, you know, then there was these squirrels. And then, what else was there? Oh, I saw a rat. Oh, God. I saw a rat going by. And then a bit later, I saw this cat sneaking around. I thought, that rat better watch out. But anyway, what were we talking about? Now we're talking about before I moved into the manor, weren't we? Anybody remember? I got diverted then. What was the question, Mukesh? Can you remember?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Just repeat. I've gone off the track a little bit. Are you there, Mukesh?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Oh, I only half answered. I didn't get through, but anyway, you a nice story anyway. Anybody remember what his question was?
Yes, Maharaj. So the question
Yeah.
was, yes, Mukesh, we can repeat as well.
Yeah, sorry. So voice was breaking, so I didn't listen. So my question was like you said, like if we read Bhagavad Gita, we might get confused, and we need an experience or learned association.
That's right, yeah.
So that was my question. So should we wait until we get a learned people, a team, or association to start reading the Bhagavad Gita? So that was my question.
Yes, so I think it was answered, you know, with the
Yes,
association.
yeah, you answered it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was going to talk about something else anyway, which was related, and I can't remember how I got this, you know, I got diverted. Yeah, I think that's the point I was making, is that one thing is that we shouldn't underestimate our situation. When we first hear about devotional service and we take to it, it's like a miracle. Well, that's how I felt anyway. That I've been floundering about, doing all kinds of nonsense, all the wrong things, and somehow or other I've stumbled across this, you know, this knowledge. You know, why have I actually stumbled across it? And then, you know, so we're very enthusiastic about every aspect to learn more. But then, you know, as time goes on, we become a little bit complacent and we take things for granted, and we forget the real position that we're in. That we're very, very privileged and we're a step away from eternity, one devotee said. I think it was Prabhupada actually, one step away from eternity. And this is a fact. If we look through the Shastras at different levels that people have to go through, and Prabhupada just presented the final level all on one plate to us just by chanting the Maha Mantra and following his guidance, following his books. So, you know, we should be aware of that. We should always be conscious that we're very, very privileged. And, you know, when we actually get special, we treasure it. Like a miser, we've got to be a spiritual miser. It's like nobody wants to answer this one.
Maharaj, you can't.
He'll go, you know, he'll unlock the safe, take it out.
Your voice is
Right?
breaking out. Your connection is a little weak, Maharaj.
Maharaj, you
Cannot
can't-
hear you properly.
Oh, is it? Okay, so he's very attached to his money. He keeps getting it out of the safe and counting it. And, you know, he's enlivened when it starts to increase. So we should be like that. We should, every so often, we should, you know, go back into our past and into our situation and see what a gem we've got. And that's the benefit of association of devotees. And that's the benefit of reading the books. Whatever problem we've got, we can just open the page of the Bhagavad Gita and guaranteed the answer will be there. We feel like a different person. You know, he's not told us anything, we've just shared it. And I think, well, I feel better now. Sometimes we get an answer as well. But that's the main thing, is to be grateful, gratitude, always grateful for our situation. Every situation is a chance to advance. Every situation is unique, whether it appears to be good or bad. If we actually take the positive side and follow the direction of devotees, then, you know, we'll be blissful all the time. We can't avoid being blissful all the time if we actually put this process into practice in that way. So for everybody who may be a little new to this process, is that the most important aspect of Krishna consciousness is to chant the holy name. As soon as we come to that level of having a little bit of faith to try chanting on a regular basis, the whole process of devotional service opens up before our very eyes. So, is everybody aware of the chanting of the holy name? Of any newcomers who have not? Palishwapu?
I think yes, Maharaj, all are aware of chanting the holy name, and many of those are
Can you hear
chanting.
me? Everybody's new. Everybody's.
I could not hear you, Maharaj, again.
I say, is everybody on this call experienced in devotional service, or are any new people on?
Many of those are definitely chanting the holy name, and I think a couple of them are still from last 3 to 4 months they have associated with me in this program. So yes, they are picking up the chanting as well, and we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam too.
Okay. Okay, I think we've come anyway. That was the first one.
I think many of
And,
has already seen you in Om Seat Om. You came earlier, maybe 2 years back, and you gave a registration to us there as well.
I can't hear you. Anyway, this may be an indication that any more before we finish.
Okay. Anyone have any more questions? Any maybe
Okay.
last
Anyway,
question?
thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
I think Maharaj connection got this.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you. We'll see you again.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj, for the nice association to us. And I'd like to
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
association.
Maharaj ki.
Jai.
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 Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.